So, we talk a lot about resolvable conflict and manage conflict and people in your lives. But the reality is there are some people that they're not healthy.
Mhm.
They're and they can be related. They say you can pick your friends, but you can't pick your family. That's so often true. And we have met with so many people. I've talked to so many guys. I've met with so many women, and we talked to couples as a whole. That it's like, but it's my mother, or it's my mother-in-law, or it's my father-in-law,
Mhm.
or sometimes even your kids,
Mhm.
that just have made decisions or their life experience, whatever it might be, that they're not healthy. And they'll say, how can I make that person healthy? Short answer, you can't. You,
Yeah.
you can't make them healthy. So what do we do?
Yeah. So one thing that we know we can do is we're in charge of ourselves, to recognize what we do have power over and control over. And so you can draw boundaries in healthy places. You can decide how much exposure you get to certain people or how much exposure your kids get to certain people. And this can be hard. And I just want to give you permission that you don't have to let unsafe, unhealthy people into your life. Certainly not to a great extent. You get to decide some of that and create some decisions that will allow you to feel comfortable about where you are. Now, as Christians, I think sometimes we especially struggle with this because we want to be light, we want to be Christ to other people, to unbelieving people, or even other Christians. And so we beat ourselves up saying, but I need to do this. I need to let this person in at a greater level so that I can have influence. But if it's harming you, if it's truly hurting you, then it's okay to reconsider that and to draw some lines. Now, we do want to be loving. We do want to be very loving and do all we can to be loving. But that doesn't mean putting yourself in a position where you're going to hit your head against the wall again and again.
That's right. And so when we start talking boundaries, again, we're not saying you're mean. It's not, well, I don't care what you want. That's not a boundary. That's
Right.
unhealthy.
That's mean.
But it's saying to someone, hey, the way you're responding to me right now, you can keep saying that, but I'm going to walk away
Mhm.
because I don't accept that right now.
Mhm.
I'm not going to put myself in that position to have to listen to that. And if they're being really aggressive or passive aggressive, especially,
Mhm.
but you still want to say things in a nice way.
Yeah.
But you are, as Abigail said, responsible for yourself.
Mhm.
And when we start talking uh, in Christendom, it can seem like, whoa, this is a little harsh.
Mhm.
Uh, and we're not trying to be harsh. What we're
Mhm.
trying to do actually is allow for you to have healthy relationships with unhealthy people. Now, let me break that down. If I'm being unhealthy, meaning I don't have boundaries, I'm going to let them walk all over me. I'm going to let them beat me up. And then I'm going to hold a grudge or be really angry at them. That's not godly.
Mhm.
That's not pursuing
It's not
what the
freedom
Spirit wants. There's
either.
no freedom. And now this
Mhm.
person has this hold over you.
Right.
Instead, making the decision, I want to be loving, but I'm not going to accept them not being loving back to a certain extent,
Mhm.
means that you are still showing love.
Mhm.
And it seems a little weird maybe for some people, especially if you never had boundaries.
Yeah.
But it's a really big deal to say this is my box that I'm in. I keep the good stuff in,
Mhm.
and we need to put the bad stuff out. Cloud and Townsend talk about this in their book Boundaries, and it
Mhm.
is an amazing book. If you've not read it, this is an area you struggle with. Another one that they wrote is Unsafe People,
Safe
or excuse
people.
me, Safe People, talking about safe and unsafe people.
Mhm.
And these are great reads because they'll help you process what do you need to do,
Mhm.
and what makes someone unhealthy. Just someone disagreeing with you doesn't mean they're unhealthy. Someone tearing you down on a continual basis, that means you're unhealthy.
Mhm. So I want to give freedom for you to possibly need to grieve because it might be that you haven't accepted yet that you have an unsafe person in your family or in your life. And
Especially with the
it,
parent.
I know it's sad. It's really sad.
Limiting time with parents or
Mhm.
grandparents with your kids can be really difficult.
Yes. Yes. There might be someone that you really care about, that you really love, that you need to draw extra boundaries on right now. And that is sad. And it is okay to grieve that, to cry about that, to go seek counsel or to seek a coach about that. Because it's hard. It is
Hmm.
heart wrenching to not have the relationship that should be, could be. in your life and in your family's life, and that's really, really hard. So we want to acknowledge that. We want to say we see you, we hear you, we know that that's hard, and it's okay to take some time to process that and let go of it and lean into some other people about it.
And so, that begins the process of forgiveness.
Yes.
And forgiveness, kind of like forgive and forget, or will you forgive me because I'm sorry, but I only did it because that's not real forgiveness. What we're talking about with forgiveness is you acknowledging what your contributions are, right? And maybe somebody is unsafe and you still responded poorly. Um, it's still okay to say, hey, you know what? I did this and it wasn't appropriate. And I just ask you to consider forgiving me for it. Well, but wait a second, they were mean to me. Yeah, they may have been. But you're not responsible for that. You're responsible for your peace.
Mhm.
And if you're waiting for them to, yeah, you're right. Hey, will you forgive me for it? And then they don't say it, then you're still mad at them. Then it's still about them and not you,
Mm.
right? Keep it
So
about you.
tricky.
That's what forgiveness is you acknowledging you did something. And this, I'll never forget when I first really started to understand what forgiveness is. I used to think if I made Abigail mad, then I need to ask for forgiveness, right? I've hurt her, therefore, because she's telling me she's mad, so therefore I need to forgive me. And now more and more I realize, no, if I know I've done something wrong, whether she thinks it's wrong or not, I need to seek forgiveness because of that restoration with God and that relationship first, and then the relationship with her and acknowledging, hey, I did something that was inappropriate. In fact, yesterday I realized, right? She hadn't said anything. I don't know if she was feeling upset about it or not. In my prayer time, I'm like, hey, wow, I did something she's talked to me about, and I need to ask for forgiveness because I messed up. And it doesn't matter whether she saw it or not. But that's only half of it.
Yeah, we want to distinguish the difference between forgiveness and reconciliation because they're tremendously different. And we want you to forgive and we want you to ask for forgiveness. But even when there has been forgiveness, or sometimes even someone doesn't acknowledge that they did something wrong, no matter what, it doesn't always mean that you're going to be fully reconciled with that
Right.
person, because reconciliation means that the relationship is restored and that you're going to go on stronger than ever and marry on your way. And we love it, by the way, when reconciliation happens. There's been reconciliation in our lives with each other and with other people, and that is precious and fabulous. But you can forgive someone who has hurt you and still instill some of those boundaries we've talked about, that they're not going to get that same place in your life anymore. They're not going to get to hear some of the things that you might confide in them. You might not be able to see them as much or in the same way, but that doesn't mean you haven't forgiven. See, there's the catch that people say, oh, well, if you're not willing to go and be with them like normal, then you haven't forgiven. And that's just not true, because
Mhm.
you might need to put a different kind of boundary on it. Now check your heart, because sometimes drawing unnecessary walls and boundaries does mean that we haven't fully forgiven.
That's right.
But it might not.
Well, and forgiveness does require change.
Yeah.
If someone continues to do something that they know is hurting you and say, oh, I'm so sorry, will you forgive me? Will you forgive me? Will you forgive me? It's like they're not really, that's not what they're looking, true forgiveness is not what they're looking for, right? And so when you're granting forgiveness, it's okay to say, I do forgive you, but we do need to talk about you not doing this anymore. And if they're like, I'm going to keep doing it, what are you talking about? You're not in charge of me. Well, you really they didn't ask for forgiveness. What they really just want to do is reconcile without their forgiveness. And because, in Christian world, we talk about, we turn from sin. You don't keep embracing it. In fact, I love the Apostle Paul. He writes in Romans 6, should we go on sinning that grace may abound? He says in 6 2, no, don't let it be. We shouldn't keep on doing the same things that are wrong. And that's true in our relationships with each other. But if that person continues to do it, you can forgive. But that's what Abigail's saying. There won't be a reconciliation. You're not going to let them in at a deep level anymore.
We hope we've given you some things to think about with recognizing what's going on with your relationships, where some boundaries need to go, what you need to let go of, and how you can forgive or be reconciled to the appropriate level for the relationships in your life.